Mike and Spike, this is Dog. How are you?
How are you, dog?
Dog,
That's better,
Mike.
much better. Yay.
Good to hear from you, man.
Hey, how's life in paradise?
Oh, it's really nice. My daughter just got married, so.
We were reading about that online.
Congratulations on that. Yeah, I was
Oh,
looking at
thank you very much.
Yeah. So, how long ago did that happen?
That was Friday.
Wow, recent then.
Yes, yes.
You like the guy? Okay.
Yeah, of course, or I wouldn't let her get married. Right?
Hey,
We'd have voted no.
And you know what? And I believe you would have voted no if we know you're not going to beat around the bush. You got a lot of fans down here in the Arklatex, man, around Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas.
Right on, brothers.
People just, I tell you what, we've had so many important people on our show, and I'm not going to name some of them because we're going to embarrass them here in just a second. I was talking to somebody today, and we were talking about all these people we were having on, and they were pretty doggone impressed. And then I mentioned we were going to have you on the show, and they just completely disregarded everyone else and said, "Oh, you're kidding. Dog, the bounty hunter. You got to be kidding me."
Yeah.
So
we get a lot of that. So.
Yeah, you trump everybody else.
Oh, I love it down there, too, so the feeling is mutual. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. We got some questions to ask you. First off, can I ask you, can you tell me what is bounty hunting, and how did you get into it?
What is it, you mean?
Yeah, what is bounty hunting, and how did you get into it?
Bounty hunting is when a civilian goes after a fugitive or somebody wanted by the law for a reward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been since the early 1800s. It's one of the oldest laws on America's books. I think the other outlasting profession is prostitution, and so it's been since those days.
Right now,
and how I got into it is, of course, when I was a kid, I watched all the bounty hunter shows, and the Lone Ranger, Steve McQueen, and of course the Hunter, and all those, and I really liked that. And then I went to prison in the 70s in Huntsville, Texas, and I just kind of fell into it. I was in prison for 18 months, and I was a warden's barber, so I worked outside the main prison gates. So every morning, the guards would come get me and basically lock me in the barber shop, and I cut the guards and the warden's hair. The hole, or solitary confinement, was outside. That's a hole where they put disciplinary, where you had a disciplinary action.
Right.
They put guys that hit the guard, hit another inmate. Their mothers just died. Their girlfriend just wrote them a Dear John because they have rabbit in them. They run.
Right.
And they put them out in this hole called solitary confinement. So one day they was bringing a guy to the hole that I knew, and his name was Bigfoot, and his mama just died. And as they were putting him in the hole, he broke and ran.
Yeah.
And he was running down the road in Sugar Land, Texas, and I saw the guards pointing guns. They were going to kill my friend, and so I jumped out of the barber shop and ran after him, told the guards, "Don't shoot. I can catch him." And I had a friend in the barber shop by the name of Ronnie Coleman. He was the shoe shine guy, and I was the barber. And Ronnie outran me a little bit, and we both tackled Bigfoot to the ground. And as the lieutenant ran up behind us, he threw down handcuffs and said to me, "Hook him up, bounty hunter."
Oh, very
fun. So in prison, then, the guard said that. Then, of course, I earned the nickname Dog, the Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I got out of prison, I met an FBI guy, right? And I told him, "I want to do this, man, for a living." And he's like, "Well, it can be done." And I hooked up with him, and I went to the post office and got, the copy of the top 10 and started snagging those guys. And so the feds told me, "Wait a minute, please, we can give you some other kind of work." And they said, "You ever heard of a bail bondsman?" Of course, I used them all the time, so I was 12, right? And I said, "Sure." So I went to a bail bondsman and started taking some of his jumps, and I caught them all. And since then, 30 years later, here we are. Thank God.
I think that I've worked in the correction system, and
have you?
Yes, I have. I in the military for 20 years. I worked in naval prisons and things like that, and had to train in civilian prison to do that. But one of the things I noticed in your show, you get some pretty bad guys, and I think the average guy watching doesn't understand, though. You get a lot of guys who really, they messed up, but they're not the real bad
Right.
guys. But I was telling my wife the other day we were watching the show, and I said, the thing is what we don't see is I bet you he gets a few that aren't such nice people. And we don't see those really mean ones that you probably encounter on a regular basis.
Right. Well, some do. Some, in the very beginning, the show's been on 5 years, so in the very beginning of the show, they were some like, I ain't saying nothing. And you're like, all right. And nowadays, believe it or not, they're like, where's my talk at? Like if I do the arrest and I'm tired, right, and I want to ride in the other car, they're like, where's my cigarette dog? Or where's my speech?
Oh, right. Yeah,
So, so most of them, but we show the ones that, say, there's a couple this season in season 5 that, they don't care what I say. They're, book me Dano. Okay, buddy. And that's it. But most will learn because, most will speak because some of the writers call it dog's captive audience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just right there. They'd rather talk and let me talk than have Beth call them,
I was going to say, that was the next thing on my card I was going to read. I was going to say, you put together a crack team of guys. And, I'm a pretty tough guy. I wouldn't voluntarily go out and scrap with those guys. I mean, unless I had to, I would.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you what. Beth would make a great Southern Belle because I'm going to tell you, Beth, if I saw Beth coming after me, I'm done. Hey, take me. You know?
She can fight pretty good. She's her father was a pro ball player in Kansas City.
Oh, didn't know.
And then she has a sister in the Woodlands of Texas. Another one is married to Mr. King Supers in Denver. And her brothers are NASCAR drivers and, the big family. But all of sports, bounty hunting is a contact sport.
Uh-huh.
So she's like a tomboy when she was a kid. But and then Leland, my son, my third son, is a pro boxer. I'm trying to talk him out of that because he's 31 now.
Yeah.
Duane Lee, my second oldest, is 35, and he's like my dad, 6'1" and 245. He just is a creature. You know what I mean? He just breaks things all the time. So there's no one man can whip us. There's none.
Sure.
And they're my sons, so I've had them, of course, all their lives. I had them in diapers, and I know it's just something where our family jumps on, because it's, we try to make it not look as dangerous as it is at times, but sometimes it's, you got, not fear, but you are very cautious until you get the guy. And I've, just like cops or feds, you take the guy down to save him and yourself. So.
And your kids have your back too. You could trust them.
Exactly.
Those guys, Leland and those guys, I watched them on the show, and it was just amazing. Like I said, I've done this, not bounty hunting, but I've done something very similar. And man, it means everything, because some of those guys are just mean guys, and they will hurt you. And it's nice to know you got somebody like Leland and your other kids and Beth who are there just, they've got you. They're going to jump in when they need to. Right,
and we use non-lethal force, so the mace is like incredible. It really stops them. And then now we've went to, in the mainland, to the pepper ball gun, which extends your punch 30 yards.
Right.
So
good.
Rather than, I like, the fact, I don't care about the pepper. It's easier to wipe off, though, because it's powder than the spray. But, you shoot, you can just, as long as you can outdraw the guy, as you'll see in season 5, there's a couple pulled weapons, and I outdrew him. And as long as you can outdraw him and shoot first, you win. But you don't kill him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in killing, I don't believe in that, to kill. I mean, I believe in the death penalty, but I don't believe that the guy on the street should kill you before, the state and the guy appointed to execute and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Certain things that you do to children or women, or, you're a stone cold killer. Why feed you and pay $186 a day when you're good? There's no redemption. There's nothing. You're done. I believe in that, but I don't believe you should kill the guy because, he pulls a little bitty knife or he, something. You should have some kind of weapon for equalizer.
Right.
So we use it on lethal. That helps, though, because you're very, we're very confident that we're going to win no matter what. And we may not win skin on skin, fist to fist. You know that. But with an extra added weapon, you're going to win. So, and you got the law on your side. You got truth and justice and goodness and, all that. So you're just amped up to the max. You know what I mean? You're You're not like going in a ring to win. Well, you are. It's like going in a ring to, you fought for 10 years and this is it tonight. You're on HBO and it's the title fight and you're in the ring, and that's every time it's kind of like that because you're so amped up that you're ready to go. Then you got to stop that adrenaline as soon as you catch a guy, and not beat the heck out of him, right?
Right.
Because you want to. I mean, that's a normal thing. You want to slap him around, or why did you run, or why did you slam Baby Lisa on the ground, or call Beth, a name, or
been there, done that.
But something, Mr. Chapman, that I've noticed about you and your family is, and I don't know if this is by design. It probably is not. You guys have a real spiritual side that comes out, and I really appreciate that. I know that you pray before you head out as a family. And that's been a long habit of mine. And Mike, I'm Spike. Mike is my brother-in-law. We're both here on the show with you. And we do that too when we go out and we know we're going to be going somewhere. We do family prayers all the time, at least 1 or 2 a day. And I really appreciated seeing that on your show. And also, I've noticed that you pray with some of these poor people that you grab on the on your show. Now, are you involved? We're down here we're in the buckle of the Bible Belt down here. Do you? We're
what
right
area?
We're right where Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas meet.
Yeah.
So, do you have some sort of spiritual philosophy that you or some spiritual ministry that you're on, or are you just?
I think so. I was raised. I'm half Chiricahua, and I was raised on by a mother that was in the mission field in the reservations, and I was raised like Assembly of God. So I believe in Jesus and God and power and a lot of Christians get mad because I say freeze MF, and I'm like, listen, freeze in the name of Jesus don't work sometimes at that second. You know what I'm saying? But I pray for meals and we pray thank God, and it's like a football huddle. We get together and like a lot of the prayers I don't like to be like a freak where you push it on believe in Jesus or you're going to hell. I don't like that,
Right.
But a lot of people. Like 30% of my guys that I arrest are girls. I say, "What's your father do for a living?" They're like, "My dad's a preacher." Wow. And then right then, that poor daddy was wishing, someone would beat that guy down and his son down and grab him and not hurt him, just beat him down and tell him something nice about the Lord in his face. So those are the ones we usually pray with. But these guys are. This is like the Bible says, "The last shall be first." And these are the last. I mean, these guys are going to be in front of Billy Graham in line, for judgment. So I'm responsible. As in prison, I was in my 20s, 22 years old. I was the prison inmate counselor. And because I just could talk to the guys. The warden said, you get in there, Jesus' father just died, and I want you to go talk to him, and threw me in the cell with them. And I had to speak to him and settle him down. And, I learned to do that. I was like the kid in school. My dad worked 2 jobs, so they were medium class, right? And I got bused to a school with all poor people, right? The medium guy, and I was called a half-breed and blah, blah, blah. But I felt so sorry for people that didn't have a father, or girls that, their mother was a hoe. And I would what happened to me, I think, back then is like when you look over an edge of somewhere and you look down how deep it is and you accidentally fall over. Right. I got too close to the fire, and it kind of, I experimented with drugs and then joined the Devil's Disciples motorcycle gang. And that's why I got the nickname of Dog, because I wouldn't ever, at 15, 16, I'm not robbing a church or the paper boy or the trick-or-treat kid. I'm not going to do that. Now, banks, I'm there. But and I always said, let's say a prayer before we eat this trash, right? Because the bikers eat, sorry, bikers, but they don't eat very good on the road. And I would say a prayer. So we had a guy named John the Baptist. So the president of the Devil's Disciples named me God spelled backwards, which is dog, and that, I was very loyal. I was there to fight all the time, and I was, man's best friend. And so my whole life has been trying, for some kind of redemption for the guys. And, because I've went through it, when I was driven to prison, I did about a year one day, and they arrested me again out of Amarillo, Texas, for shooting a cop. And I wasn't even there, right? Mm-hmm. And so the officer had to come down from Amarillo and drive me from Huntsville in that area to Amarillo. So for 2 days we drove, and he talked to me about what I could do with my life and what a great person I could be, and my personality was, different than a lot of people he had seen, and that, there was something in my life that could change. And this was the first day of the rest of your life, kind of Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins stuff. And, I listened to that guy, and he's like, dog, so he drove me down, and they, found out that I wasn't even present, drove me back to Huntsville to prison, and he drove his son with me in the car to college. Of course, I was handcuffed and shackled. I went into like a McDonald's, and, he treated me so good that, let me smoke cigarettes, and he treated me like, and I thought, my God, I want to be like that. And then I got to prison and met back to Tony Robbins, a motivational speaker, and I met Martin Sheen, and I met Peter Guber. This was in the early '80s, and I thought, boy, these guys are, they're rich, but they don't act snobbish. They share their money, they laugh, they pray, they cry, Martin Sheen's probably one of the greatest men I've ever met.
Yeah, I've worked with Martin doing some movies and stuff.
Isn't he great? And he's got
very sincere.
Sons, and Janet, his wife, and he just said, "Listen, bro, you can be something, buddy. You need to be on TV, and you need to." And I said, "What do I do?" And he said, "Just go for it. Just do right. If there's a lady walking across the street, dog, help her cross there, and God will bless you. And that's what I did. And look, every Wednesday night on A&E, brother, right?
Yeah,
that's it's God. So it's a big thing in our lives.
I was going to ask you how you did. I was going to ask you how you did that, because I know that you spent time in prison, and then here you are now. You're a good family man, it seems, and you're setting a great example for many people out. You're a real role model.
Thank you.
And I just wonder. There's always that transition somewhere. There's that moment where you decide that you want to be a good guy, and I wanted to know what that was with you.
When was that? When I walked into the Texas Department of Corrections, and I looked up, and the ceiling was almost too far to see. And at night, when I first slept there, I heard, I was 38,000 men back in the 70s, and at night I heard grown men big as Godzilla crying for their mother.
Yeah.
And I said, this is not the life. This is what, the biker. I mean, they didn't tell me that at the end of the rainbow in the life of crime on the road biker style was a cell. Right. I thought it was a bucket of gold. It wasn't. And I said, I'm not stupid, and this is not the way, I want to go. I experimented this way. It's terrible. This is caca. I want out of this. And, I had to completely change my life. And then I got counseling, like I say, through Tony Robbins and these guys, that when I had problems, I wanted to get out of prison, put in a cage like that. You come out like these service guys do that were in Iraq killing. I mean, you're a complete different human being, right. And you're institutionalized, and you come out of there, anybody flips you the bird, you're going to knock them out, right?
Right.
Because if you don't do that in prison, you become, bait. You got to be, macho more than anything. So you have a transition from prison to the world, and that's when I hooked up with these guys. I had problems. I would call them, and they would help me out, and just kept with me for a couple of years.
Well, how did you get from that point to having a TV show? How did you get from being in prison to being a bounty hunter? We got that covered. How did you go from being a bounty hunter to being a bounty hunter with a TV show?
Well, like I said, I went to Tony Robbins. I used to speak. I met Warden. I met, he's like a warden. General Schwarzkopf, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
And General Schwarzkopf got me alone, and he sat me down and told me, he said, when in charge, take charge. And he said, now tell me, he had heard about a guy that was a national guy that I arrested, and he goes, how did you do that? And I told him how, the cops were like calling in the house, he's not answering. So I was like, here, give me the phone. I called once and hung up, called back, blam, he answered because he had a signal. And they were like, wow, this guy knows this guy, it's his friend. I go, no, I don't know him. I know people like him. And so I told the story to the general, and he's like, my God, boy, I'd like to see that on television, And I always, when I was a young kid, I would stand in front of the mirror and do quick draws and, think that I was, I had the Lone Ranger and all those guys, and I always wanted to save the blonde with the buxom blonde. Thank you, Lord, for Beth. But I always, I wanted to be that guy that was her from the railroad track as the train went by the Mountie, or, and I wanted to, I always wanted to make people laugh and cry, and I wanted to be like an entertainer, because I like the girls to like me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I always had a dream to be on television or in the movies, and I just started one day. I decided, listen, if they can do that, I can do it. If I can be good and God will bless me and I can do those things, then, I want to be able to have a television show. And I wanted to show people that everybody's not a pure scumbag.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Right.
people like you and me, from the South and from wherever, our fathers didn't even know what the word really rape was. And some of these guys I knew, their fathers had raped them. And they were grown men, and I'm like, my God, what are you saying to me?
Yeah.
And I thought, no wonder that guy's a thief, but you know what I mean? So I thought, I've got to convince these guys. And then, America was like, they're all a bunch of scumbags, execute them all. And no, you got to show America that these guys and girls have hearts now. Some deserve, to be executed, but a lot of them just need that one word of encouragement. 30% of my guys, we're on show 150-something, 30% have jobs, are working, are doing better than they were, of course, when I arrested them. And, of course, 30% are still in prison because some never see daylight after they see me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other, of course, 10 or 20% are still, they're beyond show number 159. So
I think, Duane,
it's working.
I think you're a real inspiration to people because I think exactly what you said. You deal with these prisoners in a different way, and that's one of the things that I found out working in a prison. For example, we had a guy who came in one day that was, I think he was 6'6", close to 300 pounds, and he could run. We take him out in the courtyard and let him exercise, and he looked like a gazelle. It was amazing to watching him. And on a regular basis, he would take the guards and yank them inside his cell, slam the door, and bounce them around like a tennis ball for a while.
Right.
And I got to where I could go to this guy. Now, here's his issue. He was in the military prison. He quit the Navy. He just wouldn't do anything anymore. And so they put him in the brig. Well, he wouldn't do anything anyone would tell him because he quit the Navy. And I said, listen to what this guy just said to you. So I'd go back there and I'd say, hey, could you do me a favor? Could you take this toothbrush back there and clean the toilets and stuff? He'd say, sure, if that's what you want me to do. And he'd go back there and he'd clean those toilets all day long. And then he asked me next day, would you like me to do that again? So I was kind of in charge with having him do things. But I think the way that you address people,
you show them respect.
Really, that's right. You show them respect. And they respond to that. The other thing, dog, is I think that you're a real inspiration to young people. Now, I grew up in an incredibly poor environment. And I didn't go to jail or anything, but, I joined the Navy at a very early age to support my family.
Right.
And I think that you've proven something with your success. Not only can you live the American dream, you can fall and you can stumble and you can get back up. And when you decide you're going to do it, you can do anything you want to do, and you've proven that to people.
No, that is really true. Listen to me, okay? You got to walk this line that even my language, as you've seen 2 years ago, you got to watch. I mean, you got to watch every single thing, and if you walk that line, you don't got to be Mother Teresa,
right?
Or Billy Graham, because you can't.
Sure.
That's their calling, and they're objecting now about making those people saints, My God, you imagine just talking to God all day long, not worrying about sex, nothing, just being a human being to other human beings. I think they're saints.
Yes.
But you got to be a chip off the old saint block. You really got to be good. Even your thoughts have to change. And, thoughts are common to you, like, boy, I'd like to rob that armored car. And you shake that off, and I can't do that.
Sure.
As long as you do that, I used to, and I bounty hunted for 30 years, so through the 80s in Colorado is where I lived, or New Mexico, and the paper would come out, X-CON, ex-con dog Chapman captures another one, right? And then I'd go to my mother and I'd go, Mom, why do they got to use the ex-con? She'd be like, don't worry, son, it's all right. And then a couple years later, it'd be EXCON, captured another. Mom would say, see, they're getting better. And about 3 years ago, I sat down with A&E, and they were starting the 5th season. And their artwork, they set it down in front of me in New York, and of course I don't get approval, but they said, "Here's what we did, dog." And I saw the word con, and I was like, "Oh my God, why do they have to do it?" And Beth moved this card over a little that was covering the first word, and it said icon.
Oh,
And
very
right
nice.
there, I said to Beth, "What the hell does that mean?" She said, "Big Daddy, it's really good, right?"
You know,
Oh, man.
I
And
got
then
to tell
I
you.
realized that, even from an ex-con to icon, even that changed. Even the, deep down inside that bothered me so bad, and it still does. I'm not proud of those days, and I wish I had never have done them, because I'd have probably turned out almost the same guy. So I said almost. But,
Yeah.
You know,
you gotta be straight up, and you can't. It's hard as heck, but then your reward is great. And I work for A&E. I don't work for NBC or
Sure.
the big ones, so we don't make that big buck. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
I can go in a store and buy, Kmart, Walmart, those places, and buy anything I want. You know what I mean? Anything.
Right.
And so that's cool for me. I think that I wouldn't. I went to a place the other day, and the guys in L.A., and everybody had white gloves on. They were waiting on me at this place. I told Beth, I said, honey, let's leave, because this is just, Donald Trump. I've met him. It was a Donald Trump kind of place, and Donald's raised been a millionaire his whole life, right?
Right.
And so he likes that, and I've never spoken to him about this, and I hope I'm not speaking wrong, but it was like a Donald Trump place, and for those kind of guys, I told her, listen, it's really cool that those people are doing that, but let's go down to La Park in L.A. where, we got our brothers that hang around there.
Yeah.
It was just, so I think that your expectations in life, you can get absolutely what you're saying.
Exactly.
Anything you want. Colonel Sanders was 68 years old when he started the chicken thing.
Amen.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Amen. And he did pretty good with that,
look
didn't
what
he?
he did. Please remind your people, it's Wednesday night on A&E. I just got done with season 5. Boy, we got some, really, because, each year the kids grow more. You get more in tuned, even though they're family. Baby Lisa, you can look at the kids now with my eyes. They know, hit the back door. And, of course, now everybody wants to fight on television now. Here comes the cameras, here comes the dog.
Right.
And they want it, their 5 minutes of fame. So they're better shows. And I don't mean to say more violence is better, but we go after more dangerous criminals, rapists and stuff. And, it's getting to be a better show. So please remind
And
your
we can buy
listeners
previous
to
seasons.
watch.
We can buy the previous seasons, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, on AE. My website's dogthebountyhunter.com, but I think A&E started selling them. It's ANETV.com.
Okay. Well,
They got all kinds of stuff on. A&E's went from 16th, not because of me, but look at their programming now. Is a lot of the Marshalls, Gene Simmons. What's his name? Hammer Time. Hammer's coming to A&E.
Oh.
Yeah, they're really, that's a
Fabulous.
lot of guys that are like have families and go out there. What's his name? It's going to make me disappear. Chris Angel. I tied him to a chair and he couldn't. We and the boys put a Samoan knot on the chair and he couldn't get out and almost drowned in it.
Yeah, I saw you almost
Did you see
going.
that?
Yeah, I saw
So
you
he's
almost
like,
going.
Dog, come again. So I'd like, what do you got planned, boy? 'Cause he is a freak. I mean, he can make. No, I mean, I've sat there with him eating, and he'll take the fork and start talking to it, and it bends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm searching you right now, So he's on there next season. So it's
Wow.
Fabulous.
it's a good channel.
Hey, well, God bless and Godspeed.
Thank you, brothers. And if I'm down in that way, I'm gonna call you and meet you. Thank you.
You
so
come
much.
down and see us. That's an open invitation, and bring Beth and the kids with you. We'd love to meet
I
them.
will.
All right, man.
Thank you, guys.
Take care,
aloha.
dog.
Thank you. Be safe.
Aloha.
And listen, you come up this way, call me. You got my cell.
We shall.
Because I'll show you aloha in Hawaii.
We'll
Okay.
be there.
All right. Aloha.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Dog the Bounty Hunter, and I like Mike and Spike.